Hi friends, my name is Sarah, and I'm currently the Intentional Interim Minister with St. Andrew's United Church in Lacombe, Alberta. If you're watching this video, it means that you received the link via the email letter that I sent out to the St. Andrew's Community of Faith. Or you might have found it via our website or our Facebook page, or even this channel itself. No matter what brought you here, welcome. My husband John has graciously shared his YouTube channel, The Accessible Faith Project, with us as a place to share my weekly reflections. There are other videos on this channel which are an opportunity to learn more about the Bible, faith questions, and the like. If you'd like to receive notifications when new videos are posted, you can do so by clicking on the little bell icon that says subscribe and signing up. It's completely free. Today, I want to continue to explore another of the St. Andrew's Community of Faith's favorite hymns, the story behind the lyrics, and the biblical stories that they reference and retell. Sidney Carter's hymn, I Danced in the Morning, more commonly called Lord of the Dance, was written in 1963. The tune, Simple Gifts, comes from an American Shaker song. This is one of my own favorites as well, because as a person who grew up taking ballet and who was encouraged to share my love of dance with my home congregation through liturgical dance, I resonate with the idea of Jesus being the Lord of the dance. And yet, Carter wasn't sure how the image of Jesus dancing would be received. He wrote, "I did not think the churches would like this hymn at all. I thought many people would find it pretty far-flown, probably heretical, and anyway dubiously Christian. But in fact, people did sing it, and unknown to me, it touched a chord." Carter's lyrics were inspired by two things: the life and the ministry of Jesus, as well as a statue of the Hindu god Shiva, Nataraja, the dancing pose, which sat on his desk. The words of this hymn tell the gospel story in the first-person voice of Jesus of Nazareth, and portray Jesus' life and mission as a dance. In explaining why the image of Jesus dancing had such resonance for him, Carter writes, "I see Christ as the incarnation of the piper who is calling us. He dances that shape and pattern which is at the heart of our reality. By Christ, I mean not only Jesus. In other times and places, other planets, there may be other lords of the dance. But Jesus is the one I know of first and best. I sing of the dancing pattern in the life and words of Jesus." Verse 1 speaks about when the world began, the act of creation, and Jesus' birth in Bethlehem. Verse 2 sings of the call of the disciples, as well as how the scribes and Pharisees did not respond to Jesus' invitation to follow. Verse 4 tells the story of Good Friday, of Jesus' death on the cross and his burial in the tomb. And verse 5 sings of the story of Jesus' resurrection and how he lives on in us if we live in him. It is verse 3 in particular that I want to focus on this morning, as it retells the story from John's Gospel, chapter 5, of how Jesus healed on the Sabbath, cures those who are lame, and then gets into trouble with the authorities, to the point that they arrest him, have him whipped and stripped, and sentenced to die on the cross. The biblical story on which verse 3 is based takes place by the Pool of Bethesda, a pool that was supposed to have healing powers wherever its waters were troubled and agitated, presuming by an angel or a heavenly messenger. So we can understand why, as the story says, numerous invalids were usually lying around down by the poolside. They were waiting for a chance to get in the pool when the waters were agitated so that they could be healed. You had to get wet in order to get well. And the man who Jesus ends up healing had been lying down by the poolside for 38 years. And there's a couple of things that I find really interesting about his story. First, it is Jesus who takes the initiative and who asks the man, after observing him lying there, "Do you want to get well?" It isn't the man who seeks him out. It isn't a group of friends who bring him to Jesus. In fact, he has no idea who Jesus is at this point. All he knows is that he is crippled and that he isn't quick enough to get into the pool by himself when the waters are agitated. He even says so in response to Jesus' question, "Sir, I don't have anyone to put me in the pool when the water is agitated, and if I try to get in by myself, someone else beats me to it." His response to Jesus isn't a "Yes, please heal me," or even a "Yes, I want to be healed," but rather something that to modern ears sounds more like an excuse or a defensive explanation for why he's still there. Whether he wants to be healed or not isn't the point to him. It's just that he isn't quick enough to take advantage of the healing powers of the pool. The second thing that is interesting to me about this story is that it isn't about faith. There's no hint that this man believed in Jesus or in anything else except for the so-called healing qualities of the pool. Nor does Jesus require him to have faith or to know who Jesus is. He tells the man to get up, pick up your mat, and walk. And at once the man recovered, picked up his mat, and started walking. When the religious authorities see that the formerly crippled man is walking around and carrying his mat, they ask him, "Who healed you?" And he doesn't know. Then when the authorities go on to inform him that healing and mat carrying is illegal on the Sabbath, he squeals and he fingers Jesus as the one who healed him and who told him to carry his mat. Jesus broke the Sabbath laws, not me. And so the story becomes one about the rules and regulations that the authorities have and how Jesus breaks them, rather than about the healing that took place or who Jesus is and why he healed this man. And sadly, we know what happened to Jesus as a result of his healing and teaching being in opposition to that of the religious authorities of his day. As Carter's hymn states so profoundly in a few words, "They whipped and they stripped and they hung me high, and they left me there on a cross to die." Of course, this story from John chapter 5 isn't the only time that Jesus healed, nor is it the only time that he did so on the Sabbath. A contrasting story to this one can be found in a few chapters later in John 9. Both stories are about healing. Both are instances where Jesus got in trouble for doing so on the Sabbath. And yet the story of the man who was born blind is one about how the healing transforms the man and brings him to a place of faith and discipleship, whereas the man who is healed in this morning's story does not. And so given that, you might be wondering, why is it that I chose this one from John 5 rather than the one about the man who was born blind? And I chose it because I believe at its heart that this is a story about grace. Jesus healed the crippled man not because of who he was or whether or not he deserved to be healed, not because of what the man believed, but rather because of who Jesus was and who Jesus is: kind, compassionate, caring, and loving all, no matter what. For me, that is grace, the undeserved, unmerited love of God. And grace and love are at the heart of everything that Jesus taught and did. They are the essence of his life, his work, his healing, and his ministry. They are at the heart of being a follower of Jesus, a disciple, part of the dance that he invites us on. And so I would invite you to join me in singing the wonderful hymn, telling the story of Jesus' life, death, resurrection, and ministry.
I danced in the morning when the world was begun, and I danced in the moon and the stars and the sun. scribe and the Pharisee, but they would not dance and they would not follow me. I danced for the fishermen, for James and John. They came with me and the dance went on. Dance then wherever you may be. I am the Lord of the dance, said he, and I'll lead you all wherever you may be, and I'll lead you all in the dance, said he. I danced on the Sabbath and I cured the lame. The holy people said it was a shame. They whipped and they stripped and they hung me high and left me there on a cross to die. Dance then wherever you may be. I am the Lord of the dance, said he, and I'll lead you all wherever you may be, and I'll lead you all in the dance, said he. I danced on a Friday when the sky turned black. It's hard to dance with the devil on your back. They buried my body and they thought I'd gone, but I am the dance and I still go on. Dance then wherever you may be. I am the Lord of the dance, said he, and I'll lead you all wherever you may be, and I'll lead you all in the dance, said he. They cut me down and I leap up high. I am the life that will never, never die. I'll live in you if you live in me. I am the Lord of the dance, said he. Dance then wherever you may be. I am the Lord of the dance, said he, and I'll lead you all wherever you may be, and I'll lead you all in the dance, said he.